Hey class, so I'm going to show you how to get your tabletop set up for monoprinting with watercolor. You're going to need a few things: your tape, your Saran Wrap, and a piece of copy paper. Now I've got this set up here in my kitchen. You can do this anywhere where you've got a flat surface and you know that your artwork isn't going to be disturbed, at least until the next day. Alright, so I'm going to place my paper flat on the surface, and I've already torn a sheet of Saran Wrap, and I'm going to lay this over top of the paper. Now Saran Wrap, it likes to stick to itself, sort of like the stencils, the contact paper stencils we were using. So I'll tape one end down, straighten out the paper underneath, and then sort of smooth it and stretch it, tape it towards the top. Now you can see there's still, all of these wrinkles here. So that's where these smaller pieces of tape come in. Okay, you're just gonna pull it along the bottom, pull it along the top. You'll do this on both sides and you'll tape it just so you have a nice smooth surface. The reason you've got the paper underneath your Saran Wrap is just so you can see the watercolor as you apply it to the Saran Wrap. I'm just going to redo this bottom piece so it's nice and smooth, or as smooth as we can get it. Alright, so now what you're going to do with your tube of watercolor and your brush, so I've dunked my brush in the water and I'm going to wipe some of that off. Some people like to put a little dab of this onto the surface. I like to just take the paint right out of the tube. Everything that you paint onto this Saran Wrap, this will be transferred to your printing paper in a technique known as monoprinting. And we're using watercolor because it's a paint that becomes reactivated after it dries with water. So what I'm doing here is using the paint without diluting it, right? It's coming straight out of the tube. I know, Sloan. The baby wants to help. The paint's coming straight out of the tube, and notice how it's sticking pretty nicely to the Saran Wrap. So if you want it to do some things where it reticulates or buckles, that just means that the paint moves on the surface, you can get a little bit of water and just sort of tap it along the edge of the paint. And you can move it around and force it to do some different things. You might keep a Q-tip handy to pick some color up if you want to. If you have too much water in your brush, the paint's not going to stick. All right, it's gonna create these little puddles. And actually those puddles can look really interesting. It's almost like a touche wash, which is an effect that you can achieve with lithography. But we're doing this very low tech. It's a planographic method, but instead of using toner and chemicals and acids, we're just using Saran Wrap and watercolor. It's kind of genius. So I would go around and continue painting this image until I'm happy with how it looks. I've got the black out right now, but I think I'll add some colors. And ideally, once you're done with the painting, you want to let it sit overnight. Let me show you one last thing. So in silk screen, we were doing some marbling effects, and you can get a similar marbling effect with your watercolor. I'm going to take just a small amount of yellow paint and tap it down where I had some of the black, and the colors will pool up. Okay, you don't want to brush it, because once you brush it, right, if you do that, you're going to pool the colors together. But if you just tap it down, the colors will grab each other, and as this dries, you'll get that really interesting marbling effect. Okay, if you tap it, that works better. All right, so once you're done with the application of your paint, you just leave it alone. You let it sit overnight until it's completely dry, and we'll come back to this in the morning and I'll show you how to pull your print.